Welcome to another episode of the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast, your weekly dose of news and advice that comes to your pocket every single Saturday. Holding it down, here we got Mac, Mark, Scott, and Landon. Enjoy today's show.
Hey listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. We are doing another segment today in our series called Draft or Pass, or as the kids are calling it, the DOP.
The DOP.
So we're going to be dopping it like it's hot today with the fourth round. So I've been really liking these segments lately. I love the way we can put our gut feelings as analysts up against ADPs. And it's kind of like a human versus robot thing that we've got going on right now. And the last few rounds we've talked about, the first one was a bit predictable. 2 and 3 have been full of controversy, as well as some players that certainly don't merit that high of ADPs. But nevertheless, we will be talking about a fourth round that's full of depth and some high upside players. Now, before I kick it to either one of these guys to give their opinions, I will plug our socials. Find us on socials like Insta, Twitter at snap_fantasy. We love to hear comments. We love when you guys bring your thoughts to the table and we can interact on the online platform. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our page yet, click down, hit that red button, like our videos, check out the rest of our content library. We've got a nonstop feed, multiple videos weekly that are fast, quick hitting, and easy to digest, and they'll help you win your fantasy leagues. We've also got a really exciting opportunity in our listener league coming up, which was one of the funnest, most competitive leagues that any of us were in last year. So if you want a spot in our listener league, keep watching our videos and interact with us online. But most importantly, find us on Apple Podcasts and give us a nice high review. And you can give us all of the positive feedback in the world right there. So now we're going to talk about the fourth round ADPs and how we feel about them. I'm going to kick it to you, Mackenzie, first of all.
Wow, what an intro, Mark. Just really honored to be dopping it with you today. But I'm going to speak for the three of us because I know that we're all fairly high on this player. Really like where he's going right now in drafts at the 404. That's Courtland Sutton, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos. Now, Courtland Sutton's ascension to elite fantasy level, I would say so far, has been not the easiest. He came into the league 2018, had not so great of a rookie season, was graded by Pro Football Focus as a 63.8 out of 100. Flash forward a year to last year, he was an 83.1, so almost a 20-point improvement, and so that shows a lot of a step in the right direction for Courtland Sutton. Now, giving you some backstory, Courtland Sutton in the 2 seasons in the league has had 4 different quarterbacks and 2 different offensive coordinators, and has continued to show growth despite those challenges. And I think now when you look, the Denver Broncos are wanting to build around Drew Lock by drafting Jerry Jeudy in the first, KJ Hamler in the second, acquiring Melvin Gordon, adding to that run game. I think the whole too many mouths to feed narrative is a little bit overused, and I actually think that having more weapons in the passing game will help Courtland Sutton because he was doubled the 7th most time in the league last year at 33 and succeeded almost 64% of the time. So Courtland Sutton has shown that he can get it done in heavily contested environments, but he might not have to do that any further. The Pat Shurmur offense might allow for him, which is a mix of West Coast offense and spread offense. It might allow Courtland Sutton to use his big body, big playability to go out and make big plays. So I like Courtland Sutton here at the 404. I think he has all the tools that he needs to continue his ascension. And with 124 targets last year, I would expect that his reception rate would also improve as well. So I really like Courtland. Big fan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I love Courtland Sutton. I think I would be completely happy with him as my wide receiver 1. This is why we advocate on this podcast for a running back early strategy, because you can get these wide receiver values in the 4th round, and I am completely happy with that. People are worried about the too many mouths to feed, Mac. You're absolutely right, and I am not. I could see Courtland Sutton having the career similar to Allen Robinson, and that's if Drew Lock does not step up and improve. If he does, the ceiling's through the roof for Courtland Sutton. Worst case scenario, Allen Robinson. Best case scenario, DeAndre Hopkins. Whew, that's some spicy take here. I know. But one of my favorite guys I'm going to talk about is going to be DJ Moore. Kind of a similar narrative around DJ Moore, but he was the best wide receiver coming out of that draft class. People are worried about the additions, the usage of Christian McCaffrey in the passing game, still have Curtis Samuel there, and they added Robbie Anderson. So there, again, it's a lot of targets to go around.
Not to mention Teddy.
And now Teddy's not known to be a volume passer, but I'm really not concerned. DJ Moore was league best, 93.3% of contested catch rate success. Easy for me to say. Top 12 in the NFL and not going down on first contact, and had only 2.5% of drops. And that's on over 135 targets. This guy is an absolute monster, and I don't see why he should not be considered as a building block on your dynasty teams, as a wide receiver 1 on your redraft leagues. And despite all the targets around, I think he is locked and loaded as the safest with the highest upside wide receiver in the 4th round. I'd be taking him in the 3rd if I had a chance to in redraft leagues.
Yeah, and when I look at this round, guys like DJ Moore and Courtland Sutton, they are such nice depth plays at the wide receiver position. To be locking them down as your wide receiver 1 when you're in the 4th round, that is a really good spot to be. So I would say don't hesitate at the beginning of these rounds, because they're going to be the first ones to go. And, you do see with a few of these guys, the wide receivers on this list, like we've got Sutton, we've got Allen, we've got Moore. Guys like that, they do have a huge upside, but then also sometimes their floor can be a little bit limited. But I shouldn't make that too big of a concern, because these offenses do also all have new pieces in them, right? We've got nothing but youth on that Denver offense, and my problem there would just be that there might be a little too much change happening, and it's kind of like a problem last year. They never really did the same offensive scheme more than once. It was always kind of changing week to week, difficult to predict. And now when you see like a new quarterback for a guy like Keenan Allen, who's going at the 407 position here, Keenan is, he could be a real boom or bust play. I do love him, and he should get a ton of targets this year, but with the uncertainty at quarterback, it's just a little difficult for me to predict. Nevertheless, when these guys hit, they hit hard.
Well, and like too, Mark, you brought up the list of players here. Like in the 4th round right now, TY Hilton, AJ Brown, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Stefon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. That is a very stable set of wide receivers, and really sort of plays into our narrative of draft running backs early, because the wide receiver position is so deep and they're falling in drafts. And like Landon said, getting DJ Moore or Courtland Sutton in the early 4th round is a steal of a deal. And I'd be happy having either of them as my wide receiver 1. One guy I want to pinpoint here is Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs right now at the ADP of 407 is sandwiched between Keenan Allen and DK Metcalf. And if I have my choice of any of those 3 wide receivers, Diggs would be my last. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I just look at Stefon Diggs, who was a great complement in a Kirk Cousins offense to Adam Thielen, like a 1A, 1B. Kirk Cousins is a 4,000-yard passer, historically with a 70% completion percentage. He is a very sure-handed quarterback that makes good decisions. Josh Allen, third-year quarterback who likes to run, who has typically made bad decisions and has never thrown 4,000 yards. He's never completed anywhere close to 70%. He was actually up 8% last year and only had 58% completion. So I mean, I get that Josh Allen is making the right steps towards being a better NFL quarterback to the tune of winning games and leading his team to the playoffs, but I don't think that will spell fantasy success for Stefon Diggs. So if I'm looking at Keenan Allen or DK Metcalf, I'm much more inclined to take those guys with more safer routes to fantasy relevance than Stefon Diggs. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that's kind of the guy that I'm in this range saying I'm passing on.
The best thing Stefon Diggs is doing for that offense is going to help Josh Allen be better as a fantasy quarterback. We like Josh Allen in fantasy because he has that rushing floor. He has the deep ball. And I do believe his completion percentage will go up with the addition of Stefon Diggs. But that doesn't mean I want Stefon Diggs on my fantasy team. And to be my potential wide receiver 1, I just think the consistency will be lacking severely. One guy that I'm really torn on is Mark Ingram in the 4th round.
Yes.
He's going as around the 20th running back off the board. And for us to think that, can Mark Ingram return on that investment?
Yes.
Absolutely he can.
Yes.
Of course he can return on it. He has for his career. He used to be a compliment or an excellent compliment to Alvin Kamara.
Running back 12 last year.
Exactly. So many touchdowns. It's absolutely insane. But with the addition of J.K. Dobbins, that does give us a little bit of pause. His upside is capped. I do think he will be the lead back in that offense, but it's going to be hard to keep J.K. Dobbins off the field. I could see them being both guys on the field at the same time, and then Lamar Jackson just takes it, and both running backs just block for him. So now he's going on a wide range. He could be going at the back of the 5th, and at the back of the 5th, if say all you're drafting is upside to start, like a Tyreek Hill, like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of thing. I guess Clyde Edwards is going right after, but Mark Ingram just doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies. Where Clyde, you draft him and you're psyched up about it. This guy can give you a ceiling of a top 5 running back. Mm-hmm. Where Mark Ingram gives you that floor, a serious floor in a great Baltimore offense, but it doesn't give you that warm and fuzzy. So he's a guy I'm torn on right now. I'm going to pass on him in the 4th round, but come draft season, and depending on my stability on my draft so far, he might be a really good value.
And I would join you in that. I would certainly pass on Mark Ingram for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and maybe even David Montgomery. Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think is a definite over Mark Ingram, but I do agree with the points you made, Lando. What do you think, Marky?
Yeah, for Mark Ingram, it would be a pass for me, but that's because of a couple factors like the arrival of J.K. Dobbins, the ball hogging of Lamar Jackson, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially for the most rushing team in the NFL. You know, guy's MVP for a reason, but also, and this might be the biggest factor for me, and this is the departure of Marshall Yanda. I think that guy on the offensive line put in so much work and allowed them to be the rushing team. It's a big thorn in my side when it comes to drafting Ingram. So I'm a pass on him. But one guy that I have not mentioned who's on this 4th round ADP list is TY Hilton. TY has a new quarterback with Phillip Rivers. He is about as cheap as he'll ever be, and you got to capitalize on that because he's coming off at like a 50 reception, 500-yard type season. Everyone's low on him, and yeah, he's 30, but also there's like this guy is great when he's on, and I just feel like with the other options that are on this team, I think the ball's going to end up in his hands a lot, and in a redraft league, get your hands on some T.Y. Hilton while he's cheap.
T.Y. is a tough one for you. Mark, would you prefer T.Y. or would you prefer A.J. Brown?
A.J. Brown.
I think we would be remiss to not talk about A.J. a bit. He had such a boom season last year as a rookie, but people are really factoring in his regression. And of course it's going to happen. He was such a dominant wide receiver as a rookie, and I think he will get regression. He only caught 52 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was a yards after contact machine. He's only 23 years old. I really like him as that prototypical number 1 wide receiver in that offense. It's going to be tough between him and DK, I think. But we know for sure that AJ has that number 1 spot in Tennessee and the relationship with Tannehill as well. Marky, Mackenzie, are you on the same plane?
I'm kind of staying away from AJ Brown just because of, like you said, Landon, the efficiency at which he ran last year. And I understand he's a big body. He's tough to take down, just like DK Metcalf, really high in yards after contact. But listen, like, I think you're drafting AJ Brown at his ceiling or next to his ceiling, and it's going to be hard for him to return on that investment. Whereas other guys like Courtland Sutton, for example, I think the ascension continues. And I might be completely wrong on that, but that's just how I see it. I'd like to see more volume before I'm willing to spend third or fourth round capital on AJ Brown. So I might have to miss out this year. He's just not quite my temperature right now, and I'm happy to miss out if he's fantastic, but I'm willing to pass on AJ.
All right. Well, once again, we've had a few cases here, really well made and polished, but there's only a couple spots where we disagree, and we hope that you guys have some something to add, some feedback or some reactions. You can drop those in the comment, or like I said, hit us on social. If you're still with us, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Go sift through some of our content, and stay tuned for updates on our Listener League and for the Scotty Fish Bowl coming right up. Thanks again for stopping in for another segment of The Snap. The DOP is coming to a close here, and we appreciate your viewership. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us, guys. Bye-bye.